Hey, ADNC family. I hope everybody's well. It is Friday. We made it through the week. We made it through the week. I hope everybody's planning a great weekend and a safe one at that. I already see that Teresa has joined. Hey, Teresa. Thanks so much for joining. Hope all's well with you. I hope you have a good weekend coming up too. I also see we have a new member, Bridget Rogers, 8078. Welcome to the ADNC family. Thank you so much for joining me. Today we're going to talk about this black attorney, criminal defense attorney. Her name is Sudine Riley. And I'm going to play a short news clip where it talks about her being violently assaulted by multiple police officers at a courthouse where she was there doing some work. And I'll play the short clip and then I will really go into more detail about what happened and all of the other stuff. You know, I love to bring more statistics and information. So we'll have a very, very good conversation. And then we'll also just talk about Black people in general and this constant racial profiling and use of force, over excessive use of force by police officers. Doesn't matter whether it's a Black woman, Black man, young Black person. We'll talk about all of that. So let us just start with the short news clip that explains what happened, and then we'll take it from there.
Issued by her own counsel, defense lawyer Sudine Riley says uniformed officers challenged her presence in an interview room where she was catching up on work after finishing a trial. She says officers then slammed her head into a desk, dragged her out in handcuffs, and hauled her to the courthouse's basement cells. Riley's lawyer describes her as a petite Black woman who wears a headscarf, which was allegedly ripped off. She also says she was left bleeding and swollen. Durham Police say they're looking into what happened and they're treating the allegations seriously.
This is Sudine Riley, okay? And as you heard in the clip, it mentions that her head was slammed against the desk and she was challenged about what she was doing there, and she was dragged down to the jail cell on the lower level of the courthouse. They also put their knee on her head and her neck and her back. By the way, they didn't include that in that report, but they also did that to her. Okay. Now let's talk about this. First of all, I'm just going to unpack some of the things that are said according to this report. As I said, she's a criminal defense attorney and she was at the courthouse. So Durham region, Pickering, Ajax, Whitby, Oshawa. So it's out on the east end of the greater Toronto area. Okay. And the courthouse, she was there. She had worked a trial and she was in one of the interview rooms doing some work. And then in came these officers. So what had happened was it was 5 o'clock. Okay. The courthouse is open from 8:30 a.m. to 5 p.m. for the public. She is not the public. She is an officer of the law, officer of the courts, excuse me. She's an attorney. It is very common practice for attorneys, judges within the courthouse to work in one of the rooms, not only if they just want to do some work, sometimes they're interviewing people, whatever the case may be. Nothing uncommon. She's there after public hours of operation. Again, she's not the public. Like she's just not a public civilian. It's open 8:30 to 5 p.m. for things that the public will come in and do, right? Fighting cases, whatever the case may be. If they are part of a trial or whatever. So the fact that these officers were challenging what she was doing there, they already were wrong for doing that. Okay. Not to mention that they gave her a ticket. They gave her a ticket, and as you can see on the ticket, it says fail to leave premises when directed. She doesn't have to leave. She's working. That's the first thing. So she got a $65 ticket, and I guess they're saying she refused to leave or failed to leave, which is why what? You're roughing this woman up? Let us just not only talk about what this is really about here, okay? What's this really about? This is about a Black person that was racially profiled by police officers who actually was not doing anything wrong. Think about it. Like I said, she's an officer of the court. She's doing what's commonly done. There's even an attorney by name of Alan Richter. He's one of the folks who publicly said he also does it all the time. He will work in any of the interview rooms, and he said not once has he been asked to leave. Okay? So they were 100% out of order. There's no if, ands, buts, ABCs, 1, 2, 3. These are racist police officers that assaulted a Black attorney who was doing nothing wrong. Maybe she dared to defy what they were saying because she knows her rights as an attorney. And maybe they didn't like the fact that she was, opposing them. So they decided they were going to put their knee on her neck, knee on her back, smash her head against a table, drag her out of there. Apparently, her skirt even came all the way up and she was exposed. They didn't care. They pulled her head wrap off, the head wrap that she wears, pulled that off, and then put her in a jail cell. What? Now, I can't show it in full graphics for the sake of in keeping with the rules of this platform, but you have a basic idea of her injuries. She had a bloody nose and bruising and a swollen eye. This is based on her injuries from what had happened to her. Okay. Now let's talk about the Durham Police. The Durham Police. There was a 6-year provincial investigation on this police unit, okay? And again, I said it's like on the east end of the city. They found evidence of a toxic work environment inside the Durham Regional Police Service, including harassment, intimidation, mishandling of complaints internally, and they were issued 33 recommendations to fix the problems. Local officials have publicly pushed for the full report to be released so the community can see the issues and how they're being addressed. We never saw no public nothing, okay? So God only knows what, if anything, was done. And clearly, based on what happened to Sudine Riley, they ain't doing nothing to fix the problems that they have going on there. So you're asking, did she resist arrest at any time? According to reports, she did not. According to reports, they came in and challenged what was she doing there, because apparently she should not be there. And they said that she was trespassing, which she wasn't doing, because again, she was doing what's commonly done. Attorneys will have a trial and they'll just go in one of the interview rooms to wrap up on some paperwork, do some work. That's all she was doing. What all of them do. So, Bear Hug, you're saying, oh my God, attack. This is taking the lies too far. Exactly. Yeah, exactly. No resisting of arrest. And, people always want to say things like that, like, oh, she must have done or said something. At the end of the day, the people who are in the wrong here are the officers who stormed in there and challenged what she was doing there. Because even if without even speaking to Sudine, okay, even if we were to set the stage and she was sitting in that room working and they bursted in and said, what are you doing in here? And started challenging her. She could have been assertive if she wanted to and say, listen, I'm an attorney. I'm a defense attorney. I'm using this room. It's something that's commonly used. I don't have to leave. These hours are closed to the public, not me, right? I don't have to leave. So even if she did all of that, nothing that she may have done or said warrants how she was treated. Think of it. If I work for a company and the normal hours for the public is 9 to 5, and I work for that company and I choose to work overtime, so I'm sitting there after 5 doing my work, nobody should come and challenge and ask me what I'm doing there. And if they did, You can't beat me up and drag me out because I have given you my credentials and said I'm working here because I'm an employee. She's an officer of the court. So, whatever way you slice it, they had no business doing what they did to her, except for one thing, the business of anti Black racism. Because, like I said, there is an attorney that's one of the folks who's a man who has gone on record in the news and said he does it all the time and not at any time was he asked to leave. The sad part about this is we don't have any video footage because apparently there are no videos, there are no cameras in the interview rooms for the sake of privacy because like I said they do interviews and have meetings with clients and stuff like that, so there needs to be some level of discretion and confidentiality. So there's no cameras, footage of that. There are cameras in like the hallways and stuff like that. So there must be some footage that we would see, especially if they were dragging her out, right? And then also, so I said there's no cameras inside. And then also the Durham police don't have body cams, like not all of them. I From the last time I saw around 2019, they did some sort of rollout where 80 officers had body cams, but not for like court security type police officers. So there's no body cam footage, right? So there's that. Now, from what I understand, which Durham police refuses to confirm or deny, these officers that are involved in assaulting this woman have just been reassigned. So they're no longer working at the court, but they've been reassigned. So it doesn't sound to me like there's been any real consequences for these actions, okay? Let's see. It is a workspace. They know what attorneys do in those rooms all the time. They had instructions not to disturb attorneys in those rooms. Exactly. Exactly. But even beyond that, like I said, the court hours are 8:30 to 5:30 Monday to Friday for the public. Sorry, 8:30 to 5 p.m. Monday to Friday for the public. Okay? Not for attorneys. So the police coming in there and saying you are trespassing, and by the way, the ticket they gave it to her was at 5:10 p.m., saying that you're trespassing is an out and out bold-faced lie. Okay? To get them folks' attention, she should sue them for $10 million and get the ball rolling. Well, she's definitely doing something. She's definitely doing something. And as an attorney, she knows her rights. So she's already ahead of the game, right? Those officers need to be laid off and fined. So far, nothing. Now, the officer that gave her a ticket, they're saying that he wasn't, his name is Lyndon Green. So the officer that you see in this image is the one that gave her the ticket. They're saying that he was not one of the people that was responsible for um, assaulting her, but he may have been the one to go and be like, "Hey, she refuses to leave, so come handle it." The Blue Brotherhood, right? She's a lawyer and she knows how some cops are. Why would she challenge them with no cameras around? We don't know that she did. We don't know that she did. She may have. She may have said, "Oh, I'm working," you know? That's very possible. But at the end of the day, they had no business doing that to her. Exactly. You said she had identified herself as an attorney. That is enough. And I'm pretty sure she did that. I'm pretty sure. My point is this. One of the folks who's an attorney said that has never happened to him. If the situation were turned around, and we know this, and it was that same lawyer who said this has never happened to him, and he was the one sitting in there after 5 p.m., that wouldn't have happened to him. Because again, this is common. She's not new to this. This is common. She's also not new to that courthouse. So, this, like I said, these officers, they were probably watching her. They were probably like, which Black person do I need to torment today? And she happened to be the one, and it was closed, right? So there weren't a lot of people. There wasn't a lot of traffic coming in and out of the building anymore. It was 10 minutes after 5. It closed at 5. So, there wasn't a lot of foot traffic. Perfect opportunity to go in there and do what it is they set out to do. And like I said, Durham police already don't have the best reputation, okay, for the way that people are being treated out here on these streets. So these police officers need to not just be reassigned. And also, the Durham police, stop hiding. You need to come out and issue a statement and tell the truth about what's happening here, and make sure that whoever is responsible for assaulting this woman is held accountable. And I'm going to link it to most recent news that I will be talking about further. I'm just waiting for more information to roll out, waiting for more information from my contacts, but the Ontario police is in big trouble. Okay. And more than one division are in big trouble for multiple police officers that have been involved in corruption, drug trafficking, shootings, um, giving personal information out to gangsters so that they have access, stealing personal property. The list goes on. So, this doesn't help when you have officers like this, when there's already a massive problem going on that's blown out here for everybody to know about. It doesn't help that you have police officers like this that are out here beating up small Black women that are attorneys, just, working while Black. Doesn't help your cause at all. Just saying. So, family, that is the story of what's been going on here. And I really am really keeping my eye on this to see what happens with Sudine, whether she sues, whether, these people are held accountable, whether there's enough. And I should probably say, instead of there's enough, I should say we as a community need to really lean into this and really apply pressure on the Durham police. I do know that there was a sit-in protest that took place with primarily women at the courthouse. That did happen, but it wasn't something that was public. So, there's no footage of that, at least not that I've seen so far. But we need to do more. We need to do more. We can't just accept that they're going to turn around and say, "Oh, we reassigned them." No. Why do they get to keep their job? And see, and that's the other thing that really bothers me about these unions is that when these police officers do some crap, then they just go to the union, or the union handles it, or the union gets attorneys to represent them, or they get suspended with pay and all of these other cushy things that happen, right? We have to really tap into our voices, because we do have voices, and we need to reach out to our MPs, MPPs. We need to show up at some of these police board meetings, right? And start being very loud with this. Protests are great, but at the end of the day, you leave, nothing's happening, right? Meanwhile, this woman is probably traumatized. Who knows, what kind of PTSD she's going to have from this? She's injured. Like, what are we doing here? What are we doing here? You Toronto police officers, sorry, not Toronto, you Durham police officers and the Durham police service, you guys need to get your stuff together. Your officers are racists, and it is known. And this story here has me furious. It happened on January 23rd. But I was waiting again. I was waiting for more information to come out, and I was hoping there would be more information about what we've done with these police officers. And I was also hoping that we would hear from Sudine personally, but maybe she's embroiled in a case and probably can't say anything more. But um, nothing is being done here. Nothing's being done. She should have a body camera in the future. Yeah, these days we have even the glasses, right? And yeah, we as Black people in general, where we drive, we should have dash cams. We should have all kinds of surveillance on our person, because places like that, like courthouses, which by the way, you would think that you would be safe, right? Like you're in a courthouse. You're in a courthouse. It's after hours. The doors are locked. You're in there with law enforcement and security. Like, why would you even think that you need to have that? But we do now. The reality is for us Black people is we do need to make sure we are prepared to defend ourselves at all times, and we have some sort of, even if it's audio, if we can't get video, we should always be prepared. You're saying, so Teresa, you're saying it might be someone that's not happy with her judgment. They're police officers. So that would mean they were very crooked, right? So you're saying recording. Yeah, that's true. Well, she wasn't in the court. She was in an interview room. But you're right. Within the courts, yeah, it's true. There oftentimes you're not allowed to have any kind of surveillance stuff going on. Um, let's see. Especially if you're going to stand up for rights. Exactly. She should have a body camera in the future. Exactly. How long the officer's been a cop? They didn't say, because they didn't release the names of the officers involved in assaulting her. The only name we have is the officer that wrote the ticket, which again, that officer is also wrong because she wasn't trespassing. She's working. My gosh. So you said, oh yes, look what happened to Judge Donald McLeod. Black people set them people on him. Yep. So Black people in Canada are weird. Well, yeah, some of them can be. Some of them can be. But we have to be more concerned about, in this case, it wasn't Black officers, from what I understand. It wasn't Black officers. Maybe there was. Maybe. I mean, it's not something that hasn't happened before, but I suspect when I look at this one here, the one who wrote her a ticket, I suspect that those that came look like him. Think about it. Neon back, neon neck. Hmm, it's giving one of the folks. It's giving the folks. My humble opinion. Hey Buckhorse, how you doing? Thanks so much for joining. Let's see, what else you guys saying? So you said they do it all the time in the US, eh? Yeah, I have no doubt. I have no doubt that they do it all the time out there. So you said it's sort of an allergy to melanin resulting in crazy aggression. An allergy? More like anti-Black racism. Hmm. So you're saying, so cops said leave and she didn't leave. And so the cops use force. What are the steps when the cops tell you to leave a particular location? Well, you see, that's the thing. We need to first make sure that that's what happened. This part is all speculation because Sudine has not spoken out, except for saying she was, she was. They stormed in, they questioned what she was doing there, and the next thing you know, she's being assaulted. So in between, like I said, even if she said, "Hey, I'm an attorney. I'm working. So why do I have to leave? I'm not trespassing. I'm an officer of the court." She didn't say anything wrong. What should have happened should have been, "Oh, okay, thank you, Miss Riley. Thank you so much, and have a good evening, and make sure you're all good, and you good, all right." And then you leave. That's what should have happened, because that's what would have happened if it was one of the folks. We know this. Yeah, exactly. Social ranks doesn't apply at all. All they saw was a Black woman, period. Period. The social ranks meant nothing. I don't care what anybody says. This was a clear cut case of anti black racist police officers who saw a black woman working while black and came in and questioned her. And you know what? Maybe when she got that ticket, like I was saying initially, maybe when she got that ticket, she said, I'm not trespassing. And so, it says on the ticket, it says fail to leave premises when directed. Maybe she said, I'm not going because I'm not trespassing. I'm working. Or maybe she said, I'll go in 10 minutes or 15 minutes when I'm done. Right? So it could have been any number of things. The point is, the punishment doesn't fit the crime. So assaulting her, multiple of them, assaulting her and dragging her down into a jail cell on the lower level is not is really not the process. That's is not how it should have happened. That's not what it should have gone down. So she definitely has a case. She definitely has a case. And these the Durham Police and the fact that you just reassigned, whether you care to confirm it or deny it, the fact that you are not willing to answer the question, to me, your non-answer tells me you did that. They just got reassigned. So, oh, you're no longer working at the court, but you go ahead and maybe they moved them to another courthouse. But they're not unemployed. Well, so you're saying they have a use of force wheel? Okay, so again, does that level of force is that level of force what should have happened? If that's true? Nope. Because at the end of the day, it's one thing if they tell you to leave because you're trespassing or they tell you to leave because you shouldn't be there. Like, I don't know, say you're just a civilian who's there after hours when it's closed to the public. And this is a common thing that happens where attorneys, judges are in their chambers working after hours. A judge can decide to, I don't know, relocate and go sit in one of the interview rooms. They're not doing anything wrong. So she shouldn't even have been asked to leave. Like I said earlier, I could be sitting in an office where I work. I don't know, some company that I work that's closed. I'm taking care of some paperwork that I didn't have a chance to take care of during the hours of operation that's open to the public. So I'm using that time to do that. You're wrong to ask me to leave. So at the end of the day, wrong to give a ticket, wrong to ask to leave, wrong to assault her. It's wrong all the way around. Thank you, Buckhorse. Buckhorse is saying we got to check that. Yes. Yes, this is wrong. They're wrong. And to me, as far as I don't care what I said it before and I'll say it again. This is racism. They're racist. And she was racially profiled. So even when she ultimately, I'm sure, told them that she was attorney, it didn't matter to them. Where that should have been the end of the conversation. No altercation should have happened after that. I'm an attorney. I'm working in this room. I'll leave as soon as I'm done. That's it. End of story. So what they did was wrong. Period. Dot the end. And I will keep my good eye on this. I'm keeping my good eye on this because she has a case. And the problem that we may be facing, though, is their word against hers, only because we know how they can lie. They can lie. How many black men have been lied on? They resisted arrest. Sometimes they'll be saying, stop resisting when the person's not even resisting. Okay. They love to use the resisting. They love to use that is the biggest one they love to tout. Oh, they resisted. And then the other one was, I was afraid. I was afraid. That's why I love that they mentioned that she's petite, small woman. So they can't even say they're afraid. Afraid of what? Give me a break. But yeah, they love to use that. Okay. And then again, she was exposed. Her skirt ended up coming up and she was exposed. Lies. So you said all public service have public hours and public worker hours that extend beyond the public hours. Okay, well it's a courthouse and they have their standard hours of operation for the public. And so it was closed to the public, right? So you're most welcome, Buckhorse. Thank you. Yep, the cops use tricks. Yes, they cannot be trusted. But like I said, family, I want to keep my good eye on this and I'll definitely update and hopefully we'll be able to hear directly from Sudine herself. Hopefully we'll be able to get her on here and have that conversation with her. Sudine, if you're listening, you are more than welcome to come on African Diaspora News Channel and tell us your story. And we stand with you, Sudine. We stand with you. We're not going to allow this to go unchecked. Okay? We stand with you. And I don't believe that this has ever happened, but it sure did happen to a Black person. What does that tell you? So, Miss Sudine, come on here. Let's talk. Let's talk. We stand with you. And to Durham Police, you know what's going on here. And I'll be reporting on it. Stand by for it. But you know what's going on here with the police out here on these streets. Not all, but some of them. So it's big news here. So you better get your act together. Anyway, family, thank you so much for hanging in with me. I don't want to keep you too long. It's Friday. You could be doing any number of things. So I appreciate you hanging out with me for half an hour. Thank you so much. As I said, I'll keep you posted. Just want to remind everybody, if you haven't already done so, please download the African Diaspora News Channel app from your Google or Apple store. Promise you won't be disappointed. Great exclusive content by us, for us. How could you go wrong? And to those who have already downloaded the app, we thank you much just the same. Have a great weekend, everyone. I shall see you on the next one. Until then, please be safe.